government and formulating demands which probably it was impossible to grant.
But even then, he did not oppose Hume's idea being put into practice. He only cautioned Lord Grey, the governor of Bombay, not to accept the chairmanship of this political organization. Though no government servant was to be a part of it, he invited the Congress delegates to a garden party during the Calcutta session of 1886. But here again, Dufferin told his guests that they had been invited not as Congress delegates, but as distinguished visitors to the capital. But the question is, why was Dufferin adopting a policy of guarded distance and appeasement at the same time?
Well, the fear of an 1857 type of uprising had always hounded the British. Thus, if educated Indians could channelize the prevailing discontent into a constitutional moderate approach, the British thought they had nothing to fear. Moreover, this was a period when Russia was attempting to advance in Afghanistan. This could have threatened the British Empire in India, and in such a situation, the British could not afford internal disorder.
From the Congress platform came the assurances of loyalty to the Crown and praise of the benefits which British rule had bestowed on India. While in the first session, W.C. Banerjee, in his presidential address, declared that there were no more thoroughly loyal and consistent well-wishers of the British government than were himself and the friends around him. Similarly, in the next session, Dadabhai Nauroji declared, "Let us speak out like men and proclaim that we are loyal to the backbone."
But in spite of these voices of loyalty, the official attitude was now hardening towards the Congress. Dufferin now regarded it as a microscopic minority, meaning thereby that it was an organization of a handful of people and did not represent the Indians as such.
There were no more garden parties. On the contrary, there were cases when people were called upon to give surety to maintain peace if they participated in Congress sessions. The government put in all kinds of obstacles in providing a venue for 1888. The reception committee had to make private arrangements for the site. Dufferin wrote to Sir Auckland Colvin, the then Lieutenant Governor of UP, about Hume. "You have treated this silly imposture with too much courtesy."
Not only this, the government was now bent upon encouraging anti-Congress feelings amongst the landlords and Muslims. Their efforts proved successful when Raja Shiv Prasad Singh of Benares and Sir Syed Ahmad Khan campaigned against the Congress with the tacit support of the government. But why was the government so hostile to the Congress?
Many reasons can be attributed to this hostile posture. Firstly, the government looked upon with disfavor to the increasing demands of the Congress, particularly demands like reduction in military expenditure, repeal of Arms Act, etc. Secondly, the government also did not like the Congress efforts to mobilize and influence public opinion in England. The Congress had been regularly attempting to influence that section of the British electorate which tendered support to socialist ideas. Thirdly, the British government was now afraid that the National Congress was aligning itself and appealing to a particular party in England, and the Indian issue was becoming a debatable matter in England.
But the crucial factor that contributed heavily in inviting the British government's hostility to the Congress was the efforts of radical congressmen to seek mass support for their demands. In the 1887 Congress session at Madras, two pamphlets were distributed. One, a Tamil Congress catechism penned by Veeraraghavacharya of Madras. This pamphlet talked of the relationship between the home government and the English people on the one hand, and government of India and the Indian people on the other. It made a comparison between the two. More than 30,000 copies of this pamphlet were sold in South India. The second pamphlet was in Hindi, entitled A Conversation Between Maulvi Farooquddin and one Ram Baksh of Kambakhtpur. In this, were mentioned the evils of absentee state landlordism. This alarmed the government. The pamphlets were regarded seditious. Confidential inquiries were made to gather awareness about the social complexion of the Congress. General Chesney believed that the real wire pullers were sitting behind the scenes, and those who had been at the helm of affairs were merely put forward to give the Congress an air of respectability. Chesney reported,
There is to be a system of village-to-village preaching of the doctrines that the Congress is to be the remedy for all grievances.
though as yet no such attempts had been made by the Congress. The very idea had alarmed the government.
Perhaps the Congress was likely to prove a mischievous organization. Dufferin's successor, Lord Lansdowne, more or less followed the same policy towards Congress which had been followed by Dufferin towards the end of his reign. Lansdowne believed that there was no harm in strengthening the hands of the moderates within the Congress, but the extremist views were to be discouraged. Another policy he pursued was to demonstrate the readiness of the government for gradual development. He accused the Congress